How are you guys doing? Today is Friday, February 19th, 2021, out here in this quarantine. I'm James Sims, and for this episode of The Elite, I'm going to review yesterday's Elite matchups and performances from Thursday, February 18th, and of course, I'm going to preview everything that goes on today as we navigate through the world of sports one day at a time. So, I'm going to start with the NBA. There were only 3 games last night. 2 of them were on prime time. I'm going to start with the first one, going straight to Milwaukee. The Milwaukee Bucks hosted the Toronto Raptors, and in this one, the Raptors would beat the Milwaukee Bucks 110-96 after outscoring the Milwaukee Bucks by 17 points in the first half, 7 in the first, 10 in the second, and they kind of just carried that momentum through the end of the game, keeping that lead, and so they can get their 14th win of the season. For the Milwaukee Bucks in this matchup, their leading scorer was their elite starting power forward, reigning back-to-back NBA MVP Giannis Antetokounmpo, as Antetokounmpo would finish with 23 points, 12 rebounds, 8 assists, 2 steals, alongside 5 turnovers, as he did foul out in 37 minutes, shooting 8 for 20 from the field and 7 for 13 from the free throw line. For the Toronto Raptors, their elite starting power forward, Pascal Siakam, would finish with 27 points, 6 rebounds, 5 assists, and 2 blocks in 38 minutes, as he shot 9 for 18 from the field, 2 for 4 from 3, and a perfect 7 for 7 from the line. And the leading scorer for the Toronto Raptors would be their starting shooting guard, Norman Powell, who finished with 29 points and 2 steals in 31 minutes, as he shot 9 for 12 from the field, 4 for 7 from 3, and 7 for 8 from the free throw line. With this win, the Toronto Raptors are 14-15. Or I guess now they're the Tampa Bay Raptors, but for the Toronto Raptors are 14-15, which is the 6th best record in the Eastern Conference. Within the playoff picture, they are sitting half a game behind the 5th place Boston Celtics and half a game ahead of the 7th place New York Knicks. And overall, they are trailing the 1st place 76ers by 5 games. And with this loss, the Milwaukee Bucks are now 16-13, with the 3rd best record in the Eastern Conference, as they sit 3 whole games behind the Philadelphia 76ers. Jumping out to the second primetime game of the night, the defending champions Los Angeles Lakers hosted the Brooklyn Nets, and in this game, without Anthony Davis or Kevin Durant, the Brooklyn Nets would beat the Lakers pretty convincingly, 109-98, after outscoring the Lakers by 11 in the first half, and in order to get their 19th win of the season. With this win, or for the Los Angeles Lakers in this particular matchup, their leading scorer would be their goated small forward LeBron James, as he would score 32 points, 8 rebounds, and 7 assists in 33 minutes, as he shot 14 for 23 from the field, 1 for 6 from 3, and 3 from 6 from the free throw line. And his 15th point of the game in the second quarter would be his 35,000th career point. He is one of only 3 players in NBA history to cross that mark, behind Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Karl Malone from the 90s. So, of course, incredible feat to cross. But, of course, Brooklyn would spoil his night. And for the Brooklyn Nets in this particular matchup, their elite starting point guard, Kyrie Irving, would finish with 16 points, 7 rebounds, and 5 assists. As LeBron's former teammate had 5 turnovers. He played 34 minutes, shooting 7 for 17 from the field and 2 for 4 from the free throw line. For the Nets, their starting small forward, Joe Harris, would finish with 21 points and 5 rebounds in 30 minutes, as he shot 7 for 10 from the field, 6 for 7 from 3, and 1 for 2 from the line. And the leading scorer for the Brooklyn Nets would be their elite shooting guard, James Harden, who would finish with 23 points, 5 rebounds, 11 assists, and 2 steals, as the former MVP would shoot 7 for 15 from the field in 38 minutes, 3 for 7 from 3, and 6 for 7 from the line. With this win, the Brooklyn Nets are currently 19-12, which is the 2nd best record in the Eastern Conference. Within the playoff picture, they are 2 games ahead of the 3rd place Brooklyn Nets, and they are 1 game behind the 1st place Philadelphia 76ers, as both these teams have 19 wins, but the Nets have 2 more losses. With this loss, the Los Angeles Lakers are currently sitting 2nd in the West, with a 22-8 record. Within the playoff picture, they are 2.5 games behind the 1st place Utah Jazz, and they are 1 game ahead of their Staples Center roommates, the Los Angeles Clippers. And then going on to the last game of the night, the game that wasn't on prime time, the Sacramento Kings hosted the defending Eastern Conference champions, Miami Heat, and the Miami Heat would beat the Sacramento Kings 108-110 after outscoring the Kings by 10 in the first quarter, and basically riding that momentum through the end of the game. For the Sacramento Kings in this matchup, their leading scorer would be their starting power forward, Nemanja Bjelica. Sorry if I butchered your name, but he would finish with 25 points and 8 rebounds on the night, along with 2 steals in 35 minutes, as he shot 11 for 21 from the field on the night. And then for the Miami Heat, Their elite starting small forward, Jimmy Butler, would finish with 13 points, 10 rebounds, and 13 assists in 35 minutes as he shot 6 for 13 from the field and 1 for 2 from the free throw line. For the Heat, he was not the only triple-double of the night, as their elite center, Bam Adebayo, would finish with 16 points, 12 rebounds, and 10 assists in 36 minutes as he shot 6 for 12 from the field and a perfect 4 for 4 from the line. Their starting shooting guard, Duncan Robinson, would finish with 20 points in 34 minutes, shooting 7 for 13 from the field, 5 for 11 from 3, and he made his only free throw of the night. For the Heat, their starting power forward, Kelly Olynyk out of Gonzaga, would finish with 22 points and 7 rebounds in 24 minutes, shooting 10 for 16 from the field and making his only free throw of the night. And the leading scorer for the Miami Heat would be their guard off the bench from Kentucky, Tyler Hero, the subject of Jack Harlow's second most iconic hit. And in this game, Tyler Hero would finish with 27 points in 32 minutes, shooting 12 for 17 from the field, 2 for 4 from 3, and 1 for 2 from the free throw line. With this win, the Miami Heat are currently sitting at 12-17, which is the 5th worst record in the Eastern Conference, as they currently sit a game and a half behind the 8th place Charlotte Hornets in the Eastern Conference playoff race, and overall they are 7 games behind the Philadelphia 76ers. With this loss, the Sacramento Kings are now 12-16, tied with the New Orleans Pelicans for the 4th worst record in the Western Conference, as they are currently sitting 3 games behind the 8th place Denver Nuggets in the playoff picture, and overall they are 11.5 games behind the 1st place Utah Jazz. With that said, looking forward to what's going on with today's games in respect to yesterday's, starting with the primetime matchups. At 7:30 on ESPN, the Eastern Conference leading Philadelphia 76ers are going to host the Chicago Bulls, as the 76ers look to be the first team in the Eastern Conference to eclipse 20 wins. And then following that, the Los Angeles Clippers will host the Utah Jazz in Staples at 10 o'clock, as they are going to play without their 2 best players, Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. And continuing on with all the games that are not on prime time. At 7 o'clock, the Magic are going to host the Warriors in Amway. Also, the Cavaliers are going to host the Nuggets in Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse at the same time. At 7:30, the Celtics are going to host the Hawks. At 8 o'clock, the Grizzlies are going to host the Pistons. The Bucks are going to host the Thunder, and the Pelicans are going to host the Suns. And then last but not least, at 9, the Timberwolves are going to host the Toronto Raptors. Staying within the arena, but jumping into college. Last night, first-ranked Gonzaga was able to beat unranked St. Mary's 87-65 behind Corey Kispert's 20 points. With this win, first-ranked Gonzaga is 21-0 as they are 12-0 in the West Coast Conference. And with this loss, unranked St. Mary's is 11-7 as they are 2-5 in the WCC. Also, third-ranked Michigan hosted unranked Rutgers, and the Wolverines were able to pull out a 71-64 win behind Franz Wagner's 20 points and 7 rebounds. With this win, third-ranked Michigan is 15-1 as they are 10-1 in the Big Ten, and unranked Rutgers is now 12-8 as they are 8-8 in the Big Ten. Also, unranked Penn State hosted 4th-ranked Ohio State, and in this one, Ohio State would pull off a 10-point win behind E.J. Liddell's 23 points, as Ohio State would win 92-82. With this win, 4th-ranked Ohio State is now 18-4 as they are 12-4 in the Big Ten, and with this loss, unranked Penn State is 7-11 as they are 4-10 in the Big Ten. Wichita State hosted 6th-ranked Houston, and in this matchup, Wichita State would upset a top 10 team in the NBA or in the NCAA, as Alterique Gilbert would lead the way with his 16 points. With this win, unranked Wichita State is now 13-4 as they are 9-2 in the American Conference, and with this loss, 6th-ranked Houston is 7-3 as they are 11-3 in the American Conference. Also, 21st-ranked Wisconsin hosted 11th-ranked Iowa, and in this game, the Hawkeyes would beat the Badgers 77-62 behind Luka Garza's 30 points and 8 rebounds. With this win, 11th-ranked Iowa is now 16-6 as they are 10-5 in the Big Ten. With this loss, 21st-ranked Wisconsin is 15-8 as they drop to 9-7 in the Big Ten. And also, 25th-ranked San Diego State went to Fresno State and were able to beat the Bulldogs 67-53 behind Trey Pulliam's 18 points. With this win, 25th-ranked San Diego State is now 16-4 as they are 10-3 in the Mountain West. And with this loss, unranked Fresno State is now 9-8 as they are 7-8 in the Mountain West. And then there aren't any ranked college games today, as of course the college schedule will pick up on Saturday, and I will get to you with those games tomorrow when we get to tomorrow. And then really quickly staying within the arena, but jumping to the ice, transitioning and segueing into the NHL. There were a good amount of games last night. Starting in Boston, the New Jersey Devils were able to beat the Boston Bruins 3-2 as their right wing Palmieri would finish with 2 goals in the night to get the Devils their 6th win of the season. With this win, the New Jersey Devils are currently sitting 6th in the East Division as they trail the Boston Bruins, the team they beat, by 8 total points in the table. Also, the New York Rangers were able to beat the Philadelphia Flyers 3-2 in a shootout as they were able to get their 5th win of the season. With this win, the New York Rangers are sitting 2nd from the bottom of the East Division as they trail the Boston Bruins by 9 total points. And continuing on, the Pittsburgh Penguins were able to beat the New York Islanders 4-1 as Zucker, their left winger, would finish with 1 goal and an assist. With this win, the Penguins are now 8-6-1, and they are now sitting with the 5th best record in the in the East Division as they trail the first place Boston Bruins by 5 points. There's my math. And then jumping out to DC, the Washington Capitals were able to beat the Buffalo Sabres 3-1 as they scored a goal in each period. And with this win, the Washington Capitals are sitting at 8-4-3 with 19 points in the table, tied with the Flyers and the Islanders for the 2nd best standing in the table behind the Boston Bruins, or they trailed the Boston Bruins by 3 points total. Jumping to the Central just to see what's going on there. The Columbus Blue Jackets were able to beat the Nashville Predators 3-0 as they scored a goal in each period. Their goalie would finish with 32 saves as Merzlikins would finish as the top player of the game. With this win, the Columbus Blue Jackets are sitting at 5th in the Central Division as they trail the first place Florida Panthers in Chicago Blackhawks by only 2 points. And jumping really quickly to the North Division, which is the team consisting of all Canadian teams, the Toronto Maple Leafs would host the Ottawa Senators and beat them 7-3 after the team scored 3 goals in the first 2 periods. Auston Matthews would finish with 2 goals and an assist, and also their center, Marner, would finish with a goal and 3 assists. And then their other center, Thornton, would finish with a goal and 2 assists. So big game for the Toronto Maple Leafs as they picked up their 13th win of the season. With this win, they are sitting on top of the North Division by 8 points over the Canadiens and the Edmonton Oilers. And then jumping out to the West very quickly, the St. Louis Blues hosted the San Jose Sharks and were able to beat the Sharks 3-2 in overtime as their left wing Perron would finish with a goal and 2 assists. As his involvement with all 3 goals would help the St. Louis Blues get their 10th win of the season. And with this win, they are sitting on top of the West Division at the very moment as they lead the Las Vegas Golden Knights by 1 point. Also, the Los Angeles Kings went to Phoenix to beat the Coyotes 3-2 in a shootout in order to pick up their 6th win of the season. With this win, the Los Angeles Kings are sitting 5th in the West Division as they trail the first place St. Louis Blues by a total of 7 points. And then last but not least, the Anaheim Ducks hosted the Minnesota Wild, and in this one, the Wild would beat the Ducks 3-1 after scoring 2 of their goals in the first period. With their 7th win of the season, the Minnesota Wild are currently sitting 2nd from the bottom of the West as they're tied with the San Jose Sharks for the worst standing in the table, even though they played 2 less games, as they currently trail the first place St. Louis Blues by 8 points in the table. With that said, looking forward to today's matchups, looking at the primetime matchups at 7:00, the Red Wings are going to host the Panthers on ESPN+, and then at 9:00, the Calgary Flames are going to host the Edmonton Oilers on ESPN+. With that said, of course, as we navigate through these sports one day at a time, I'm going to transition last but not least to what's going on with soccer. And yesterday was the first stage of the round of 32 for Europa League. But first, before I get to that, in the She Believes Cup, America was able to beat Canada in the very last seconds. It was a last second goal that would help America advance to the next round. Is a 79th minute goal from Labelle as they beat Canada, and also Brazil was able to beat Argentina as the first goal will come off a penalty kick from their legend Marta to help Brazil advance to the next round of the She Believes Cup. And then really quickly looking at what's going on with the men's side of the table and the Europa League. there were all the teams played yesterday, but looking at the bigger games from yesterday, Manchester United was able to beat Real Sociedad 4-0. Their first 2 goals will come from their Portuguese center attacking mid, Bruno Fernandes. He scored 1 goal in the first half, and then the second half he would start off the scoring there. The third goal will come from their elite British forward Marcus Rashford in the 64th minute to put them up 3-0. And then, of course, Daniel James would seal it up to give Man United the 4-0 win. And then really looking at AC Milan, one of the Serie A's top teams, they ended up drawing with Red Star Belgrade in the first leg, 2-2, as they're going to play their next game in Milan. And, of course, going back to the Man U game, their next game is going to be in Old Trafford, so I can just imagine that they're going to advance to the next round. Another big Premier League team that got their Europa League matchup was Tottenham Hotspur. They beat Wolfsberger 4-1. Their first goal will come in the 13th minute from their elite Korean forward Son Heung-min in the 13th minute. And then, of course, Gareth Bale, their legend, would score in the 28th minute. Mora would score in the 34th to make it 3-0 at halftime. And then a goal from both teams would make it Tottenham Hotspur 4-1, as their next game will be played in London to see what's going on there. And those are the big games from yesterday. Transitioning to today, the only big matchup that I would keep an eye on is the French Ligue 1 matchup between Brest and Lyon, because of course Lyon is competing with Lille and PSG for the top of the French table. As of right now, Lyon sits 3 points behind first place Lille and 2 points behind PSG. So a win here could temporarily put Lyon at the top of the table because they have a higher goal differential than Lille. That puts the pressure on Lille and PSG to win this week. So that'll be a very interesting game to watch. But with that said, that's kind of everything that's going on for today. Once again, today is Friday, February 19th, 2021, and I will do my next episode tomorrow on Saturday, February 20th, as of course these exhibitions are as they finish up. And additionally, I do have to do an individual profile of Nikola Jokic, the Serbian center for the Denver Nuggets, as he does turn 26 today. And with that said, I want to thank everyone for listening to all 17 minutes of this piece. I hope all is well, and I will catch you tomorrow. Once again, today is Friday, February 19th, 2021, out here in this quarantine. I'm James Sims. This is The Elite. I want to thank you guys once again for listening to my piece. I hope all is well, and peace out. I'll catch you tomorrow.